What's up, everyone? This is Max from Amped Magazine. We're interviewing Donnie Gebert, a former U.S. veteran and recent author of A Direct Republic, The Null Hypothesis of Politics, How to Automate a Legislator. That's what we're going to be talking about in these interviews. Visit ampmagazine.net/Donnie Gebert interview for more.
So tell me everything you know about a prison system real fast, and then tell me what you would do to fix it. I'm curious because I don't listen, I'm not a fucking normie. Is it obvious I'm not a normie? I don't know how this shit fucking works for normies. And I kind of got to ask every once in a while, like, what does a normal person think about a prison system when they don't know anything about it?
I mean, like I said, I'm pretty anarchist. But how do you deal with that then? How do you deal with the problems there's problems in a prison right now? We're not saying that all the stuff in there is good. How do you deal with the real problems in a prison? I mean,
not the
I just wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't have the prison at all from reading and listening to Bob Murphy about and all the people from Mises about what a prison. What I don't even know what to call it. Where you pay off your debts and stuff. You go to some place where you can pay up monetarily off your debts, and that would be the way that it would be way more kind-hearted.
Now skip to murder.
What's that?
Now skip to murder.
Yeah, it would be the same thing. You would have to find the best place, private prison or readjustment place. I don't know what exactly it would be called, where you would get your highest, or maybe you would have to have your own life insurance. You would have to buy your own life insurance, and maybe it would be the
mandated payment. You said somebody had to buy life insurance. You mandated a payment. If you mandate a payment, somebody is now economically required to be in that system instead of they are now in.
I would go about from this then kind of like you describe in your book, and maybe I'm not synthesizing it right, but where if someone murders someone, then it would be known that this person's a murderer, or it would very quickly be known, and hopefully, or whatever, and then when they're interacting in the community, people would know this person as a murderer, and then they would have to go to one of these places away from society to either repay their debts monetarily, or they just wouldn't come back to the society at all because people wouldn't want them there.
So at any point, do you go full authoritarian? Because I do, and I will drag people and place them on an island and leave them there, and they have no escape. And I will fucking do that to their face.
Go ahead.
Because we're not going to run a prison. I mean, we might have the voluntary prison for you stole money and you get to pay it back. But for the you murder, you rape, we don't have time for you. We don't have time for you. Sorry, camper, you are going away.
Who's doing that, though?
Oh, don't worry. Like, you have to remember, remember something. There's a group of people, if you commit murder, all of a sudden, we have to reason with you to get you to not commit murder again. You know what I mean? My understanding is that should have been tacit up front. And because it wasn't tacit up front, this human no longer can reside in this geography. So are we going to violate the human's rights? No, because they don't live here unless they agree to the rule, right? You agree to the murder rule, and now you don't get all of these sexy rights in civil society. You're volunteering to not murder. And then you're also volunteering that should you murder, you might just get snatched up and dropped on an island. You're basically saying, as a human being, I have no right to murder. So if I do that, I kind of give up my rights to defend myself in lieu of. I'm not saying this is a legal process. I'm saying this is the philosophy of how do you justify murder? And how do you deal with it? And the answer is, if a human reserves the right to murder, then you have to assume that everyone has. Can you in your mind put murder as an ethic in a legal society, and live in a society of murders where that's okay? What would it look like? You know what I mean? In your head. Think of it like vampires.
Who would take them away though? Like who, like if you kill my sister,
right?
If you kill my sister, who's going to take them away? Like who's going to, who's incentivized to take that unless I pay them?
And here's where I say that you hook up the Andrew Napolitano legal network to your property deed and to your person. So should anything happen on that property deed, you will not just have a legal system locally that you can adjudicate, but you will also have a QRF, and it would look like Eric Prince. You know what I mean? Like Blackwater.
What's QRF?
Quick Reaction Force. Security detail. You have a 911 to call. Hey, this person took my person. So instead of having an FBI, you have a bunch of old Navy SEALs who don't go to work unless there's a victim, period. They are working in a legal system that they volunteer to be in, so you know that they're playing by the rules. And if for any reason they ever go to work, it's because someone was doing harm to another human being. They're going to go to work. They already have all the exculpatory evidence they need to them. And if they don't, they have to bring them in for a trial, right? We're not saying you automatically go to an island. We're saying you will go through the legal system, and then you will be dropped off by the security detail that picked you up. And
who would pay those? Who would pay the security? The insurance companies?
Again, this is going to go through. So you're going to have the Andrew Napolitano legal network, and a portion of your premium is going to go towards this kind of super violent security force. And it's hardly ever used, so it's not that expensive. Let me rephrase. Eric Prince's operation is like $100 million a year operation. But it's probably a lot less. He's got some helicopters, but he actually probably only goes through, maybe 20 million in revenue. He's just got a lot of expensive equipment. So it's not that expensive to keep this little operation going on a regional level with all the homeowners. Now, that can deal with murders and kidnappings, and then they will have local security that can also deal with murders and kidnappings. But imagine you needed people to go farther. At a certain point, nobody gets your family member back. Nobody, not even the federal government. So we can come up with all kinds of scenarios, but all of the smart ones look like a bunch of rough men standing around. The bikers would do better than the cops. Because bikers are lazy. They'll only go to work if they have to. The cops will go to work because they're incentivized to do so. They're going to give them medals. They're going to be given de facto immunity. You start butting these people down with bad ideas, man. Listen, man, you're 27 years old, and I could turn you into a retard by the time you're 30.
By what? By doing what? By doing what?
Hard physical labor and putting you in a position where you thought you had to fight your way out in a particular direction. 3 years. You will be hard as woodpecker lips, and then you will be focused in a direction. And now here's the thing. I would have to be able to focus you, right? That means I have to bullshit you. You're hard to bullshit, but I could definitely turn you into a retard like me. You'd be telling cops no. Go ahead, you'd look at a cop and say, go ahead, pull your firearm. I dare you. Pull your fucking firearm at me. I dare you. Are you in fear for your life? Because I'm in fear for mine. I'll talk mouth to a cop because that motherfucker doesn't know who he's dealing with. So 3 years from now, you'd be like that because you already got enough ideas that I couldn't bullshit you. But if I got a hold of you at 18, what would you be looking like at 27? You'd have to turn around and come back, wouldn't you? That's everybody. Everybody is younger and susceptible, and I can point you in the right direction. So, and then you get everybody. It doesn't. Even if you say that person isn't susceptible to outside influence, they're susceptible to their own, and that perception is what will deceive them if they're fucked up, right? So it's the circle of life, Simba. It's the circle of life. And if you don't understand your place in it, you'll shoot people and call it a job with qualified immunity. You really will. I knew I was never going to be in legal issues for shooting anybody, but I knew I might get killed. So I really learned how to not get killed by other people. Like, that's kind of a stressful life. I never thought of it like that. I didn't think of it as a stressful life. I just walked around in a way to making sure that other humans couldn't kill me. And then I walked in dangerous places and did the same thing. So at a certain point, it's about how I have the ability to wipe out a whole bunch of Travis County sheriffs before they shoot me. Bunches of them. It's not going to be two. Two's warm up. I will die with a very, very, very hot barrel. But that's not the point. I don't have to do that here. I can run my mouth here. I can run my mouth here, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to run a machine gun test. So here, you expose the fraud, and we're fine. Everywhere else, you have to run a machine gun test to expose the fraud sometimes. You know what I mean? You do it at the hardest worst case scenarios. The rest of them aren't that bad.
It's hard to, like, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, like, to set a precedent. And
Not a precedent. Not a precedent. All the murders are going to that fucking island mercilessly.
I'm saying right now, though, like, to start things off, like, to set a precedent and, you know, hey, I'm not going to do this kind of thing. And
Listen, everybody's making arguments that their cops are protectors, but their cops are not behaving like protectors. So that's a pretty easy to expose, man, because the cops are fucking doing it. Hey, that thing that you think is doing the right thing, look at it right now. What is it doing? What is that thing in the performance of? And then you start to, listen to the average human try to justify a traffic ticket, and what you hear is a child repeating what they were told in school. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't know anything enterprise about the physical security demands of it. They don't understand contract law. They don't understand commerce. They don't Jesus. You'd be lucky if half of them knew how to drive. I mean, it's just bad. And the government school system really puts out just trivia. You're supposed to know this smattering of so many things that you feel like you're at least qualified to say hello to somebody on every topic, but not necessarily. You might not really know what you're talking about on foreign policy, and you should probably shut up, but you won't.
So I feel like it was hard. Yeah. I feel like it was hard for you not to kind of go to this extreme in the book of, like, kind of, I don't know, it seems like you tapered it down a little bit in the book of being more, I don't know, not taking things to the extreme of, or I don't know, maybe not so much.
Listen, if at any point you're using the word extreme, you are uncomfortable. Volume 11 and 0 are both extremes. So the concept of extreme in law doesn't really exist. When you're looking at laws, you're looking at an action and then a punishment, functionally, or a cause and an effect, if you will. If murder, then what? If rape, then what? If that, then what? And you can have a lot of different interpretations of that. What I am saying is, bad human ideas feed on themselves. Good human ideas do not.
I completely agree with that.
Okay, so when you start treating cannibalism as if it's a parasite that should be moved, you take a cannibal and you move it to an island with all the cannibals, and they eat each other. They're allowed to practice their own human ethics as they see fit. The world gets fewer cannibals because the cannibals got to eat. Right? So this is a self-serving problem and a self-serving solution.
How would, what if you have your bikers, you're like, hey, we've all, we're in our society and decentralized society, and, someone kills.
Sorry, my dog.
Yeah, no worries. Someone kills my sister, and I have one of these bikers go and take him to no man's land.
Why not you?
But what if I go
Why
ahead
not
and
you?
what if I go ahead and kill the?
Then
What
at
if
what
I
point
just
is
kill?
this a problem?
What
When
if,
did they do this? Are you your sister out of the room with you, in it, out of the house, out of the neighborhood? Okay, you weren't around. Are you going to farm this out to someone else, or are you going to do it for you? I understand you might not have. I understand this doesn't work for all things, but I want you to start taking ownership in. As soon as someone abducted your sister, you immediately thought it was someone else's job to do it. And I'm like, oh no, man. Let's make that one personal at least.
well, my inclination then would be to immediately kill the person. Would that be just? And would I be okay to?
Why is your inclination to do that?
Because he took.
In the same time frame, right? Got to remember, he's a murderer. You kill him, or you kill him while he's in the act of killing your sister. You get two dead people, and nobody wins. No one's going to call you a murderer, but that's really just a. I'm sorry, that's just a legalistic difference. Your sister's dead. The germane difference is that your sister is dead. Will killing Dude Man help? No. Will everyone seeing Dude Man never eat ice cream again? Never have ice again? Now fucktard lives on island and eats fish all day, every day. Dodges sun because it doesn't have air conditioning, okay? Now, while I definitely understand that shooting someone in the act, if you're close enough to prevent that act, you should be going as fast as you can to prevent it. But once the act is done, better to take them and dump them off on an island. Because if you think threatening people with prison or death works, it obviously doesn't. Because some people are like me and I'll go all the way till death. And some people don't mind prison. So you have to make sure you have a proper deterrent. I don't know anyone who wants to live on an island with other murderers and only eat fish. Because that's what they have to catch with their own hands. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting perspective. What do you think about the, people having to go pay off their debts or something, or at like some kind of like work camp or something like that?
If you created a debt, you have to work it off. The end. And that's not worth sending someone to the island unless they're a pathological abuser. And then they don't deserve the comforts of civil society. So you separate them and you put them where you put all the other uncivil people. Now, if you want to have two islands, one for nonviolent offenders and one for one for violent, because one murder will get you there, 10 murders will get you there. But then you have another island for nonviolent offenders. Okay, fine, fair enough. And you can give that person, let's just say the island gives the opportunity for clemency where the death penalty doesn't. So you have options, but at a certain point, we all live on Earth. We have to put these humans someplace on Earth in an economically efficient manner. They're obviously aberrant behavior. We can't ask them to do things nicely to the point where we will jail them in an authoritarian society anyway. So how does a libertarian deal with something that's inherently a job for an authoritarian? You just let it happen the way it happens. Those humans want to murder? You lost your rights. Okay. Well, that's just an economic solution. But if you get a philosophical solution together, it looks like preempting the murder with a contract that says you won't murder. Now I don't have to pretend that we live in a society where murderers are going to get a bunch of fucking civil rights that they're really not going to get. They're going to get a trial. They're going to have their legal I don't even want to say rights, because rights almost gives they are going to have a legal Rube Goldberg machine at their disposal that will determine whether or not they are or are not in breach of contract, in this case for murder. And if they are in breach for contract for murder, they already agreed to go to the island. Does that help?
Yeah. It's definitely
It's the philosophy of we shouldn't have to wait to adjudicate all of these. So, okay, you start this concept, right? The concept of a murder and an adjudication system and a prison system from the impact of a murder. You're somewhat limited, right? You're somewhat limited into things that even sound right. But when you say everyone involved volunteered to not murder, and there were specific consequences for murdering known up front, Jesus, man, your legal system doesn't have to spend millions of dollars worrying about whether or not the glove fits OJ. They go right down to certain tenets of, is this proven or is this not proven? Is this science or is this not science? Imagine a court that's always monitored by a million people on court TV, where we always have the record. You know what I mean?
Elaborate on that, like how that would be more.
Okay, so let's just say America tomorrow. We all volunteered to not murder, and there's a murder. So it's going to be the same thing. You need a bunch of people to go and investigate it. They have to know how. Do you get good service from government people? No. Do some government people know how to track down murder? Obviously. So you hire these people who used to work for government. Now they work. Now they work for either your legal system. Your legal system will probably be either homeowners or through your deeding. It's all somewhere along those lines, right?
But wouldn't that entitle some kind of administration if you were like some homeowner association? You're pooling your money for, well, maybe I guess not, because you can always leave it.
Contract. An HOA is a contract. It's not a fucking legislature.
Yeah. Okay.
If I sound rough with you at any point, I'm not. I'm just direct.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So
keep going with the how it would be more efficient and just do.
Right. So when you start with the murder, now everybody's not dicking around, and we have people who are emotionally involved. So when you start with the contract, now the manner in which we figure out murder is Rube Goldberg. This is what the people at a murder scene do anyway. They figure out who did it. The question is, once you find out who did this, what do you do with them then? So when the person that you're looking for already agreed to be hunted and placed on an island, when you go pick them up, you can knock on. Listen, you get two guys like regular cops at body armor, and you go knock on his door. He opens the door. Say, "Hey, man, this is your signature? Yeah, that's the contract you signed in your legal system. You need to come downtown with me, man. We got some shit for you." And if he wants to fight, he fights. Otherwise, he's not supposed to fight, right? So if he's innocent in this legal system, he should be able to go downtown. He should be able to remain silent until for all I know, Andrew Napolitano himself shows up. I don't know. I don't know how that individual level of legal security is going to look like, but his rights are going to be preserved in this way, because the whole thing is going to be interviewed, and he doesn't have rights. Okay? He has rights. We're going to have a conversation. That's all. There won't be some legal template that this conversation takes place under, other than you contractually agreed to not murder. Now we're going to have a conversation about this. You may be able to leave after the conversation. You may not. But if you're already on the run, then we send people to get you. You know what I mean? At every stage, you're either dealing with a reasonable human or you're not. If you're not dealing with a reasonable human, dumping them off on an island is perfectly reasonable. And if you are, adjudicating the contract is also perfectly reasonable. But it's not unreasonable if they don't know what they volunteered for. And it's easier to educate everyone in a 3-page don't murder, don't rape contract that's objective than it is to try and conjure up legal ethics that will somehow protect you should all of this go down in a system that supposedly never sleeps but is always asleep on the job until it shows up for you. And then the bullshit starts. And then you'll have to fund it, and you'll have to defend yourself from it. There's no logic to any of it other than somebody somewhere told you that you were owned, and if you have an argument it's against the law. That's what this all boils down to. Except you're allowed to mouth off and other people, and we're all just basically stuck in the best way to describe this, man, is the federal government is a private legal system, and we're all stuck with it. You could call it public all you want. I'm going to call it a private legal system that we're all stuck with, and it's here, and it's on the landmass of North America, but it's private, and we're not allowed. Really talking about making it a public legal system where everybody gets to write the laws instead of some people. I mean, if you want to turn the turns around, it really does almost make more sense like that.
Yeah, it's like a big operation. They can, decide what they want to do when they want to do it, and just so happens we kind of follow along with it till we don't.
Man, we got lied to when we were kids. The quicker you get over that one, it's cool. Your parents, they gave you shit tons of bad information. You know why? Because their parents gave them shit tons of bad information. So now you can empathize with them and not repeat their mistake.
Yeah.
That's
I think
it.
that's, yeah.
You then have to fix it. You have to fix it. So